Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to talk about the 3 a.m. doom scroll.
Oh, the real estate doom scroll.
You know exactly the feeling.
Yeah.
You're lying in bed, the blue light is just totally frying your retinas,
Right.
and you are convinced, like absolutely convinced, that if you just refresh the app one more
The
time.
perfect house is going to magically appear.
Exactly. It's this digital treasure hunt. But honestly, it's starting to feel more like a modern torture method.
It really is. It's become a full-blown pastime for people.
You build this entire narrative in your head.
Yeah.
The perfect life, the perfect kitchen, the backyard with a big oak tree and a tire swing. But then you hit search, you filter for your price range, and reality it just smacks you right in the face.
It's the gap between expectation and market reality. And if you're looking at the data from late 2025 into early 2026, that gap has essentially turned into a canyon.
A canyon is the perfect word for it.
Yeah.
And that is exactly where we are starting this deep dive today. We are tackling what we're calling the unicorn problem.
The elusive unicorn.
Right. You want the impossible house in the impossible neighborhood for a price that the market says flat out does not exist.
And usually, from an economic standpoint, when you're hunting for a unicorn, the answer is brutally simple. It's not there.
Because the market is efficient. Right?
Exactly. The market is highly efficient. If a house like that existed at that price, somebody else would have bought it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So the standard advice is usually, adjust your expectations. Settle for less.
But today, we're looking at a case study that suggests maybe, just maybe, the unicorn actually is there. You just can't see it.
It's invisible to the public eye.
Exactly. So we are deep diving into a specific story from Fishers, Indiana, pulling from sources from early 2026, basically right now.
Right.
And we are centering on a family called the Thompsons. That's Mark, Emily, their 2 kids, Sophie and Liam. And we cannot forget this part, Max.
Golden retriever.
The golden retriever. I have to say, in a lot of these suburban real estate transactions, the golden retriever is practically the primary decision maker. Oh, 100%.
If the dog doesn't fit the yard, the deal does not close.
If Max isn't happy, nobody is happy. So here is the setup for you. The Thompsons are relocating from Chicago down to Fishers.
Okay.
At a very specific, very strict, no compromise wish list. And they are just hitting a massive brick wall. They are exhausted.
It's really worth pausing on that exhaustion for a second. In the industry, we tend to call it buyer fatigue.
Which sounds a bit clinical, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds like a mild symptom. But it's actually a profound emotional drain. By the time we pick up their story in the source material, the Thompsons had physically viewed over 25 properties.
25. That is, think about the time that takes.
It's enormous. Think about the logistics alone. You're arranging the viewing, you're driving there, often from out of town, you get your hopes up.
Right.
You walk through the front door and you immediately realize the kitchen is completely cramped or the yard is a swamp.
And then you have to drive all the way back.
Exactly. Do that 25 times and you really start to question your own sanity. Emily Thompson actually had a quote where she said, she started to think their perfect home just, quote unquote, doesn't exist. They were entirely defeated.
And that defeat is a dangerous place to be.
Right.
Because that's usually when people start making really bad financial decisions.
Precisely. That fatigue is a massive economic factor in real estate. When buyers reach that breaking point, they usually do one of 2 things.
Okay, what are they?
They either overpay massively for a home that is just, quote unquote, good enough just to end the pain of the search.
Just to be done with it.
Right. Or they settle for a house they actually hate, which inevitably leads to severe buyer's remorse about 6 months down the line.
But the Thompsons didn't settle, and that's why we're doing this deep dive. We're going to break down how they managed to find this impossible home without settling and, crucially, without breaking the bank.
Yes.
And the central figure in solving this whole puzzle is a luxury real estate advisor named Kara Conde.
Right. And looking at her professional profile, it's really important to distinguish the specific type of agent we are dealing with here.
Let's hear it.
So she's with Circle 8 LLC. She's a certified luxury home marketing specialist with over 2 decades of experience. But the thing that really stood out to me in the source material is that she covers both residential and commercial sectors.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Because usually you have your house person and you have your office building person. And those 2 worlds don't really talk to each other.
They usually don't.
So why does it matter for a family buying a house that their agent also does commercial.
Because it completely changes how they view the board. A purely residential agent is looking at, school districts and courts countertops.
Right.
But a commercial agent is trained to see the macro trends. They see where the corporate jobs are moving, where the new logistics hubs are being built, where the city infrastructure money is flowing.
Ah, I see.
They essentially see the wave forming in the ocean long before it ever hits the shore.
So she knows where the money is going before the local house prices even reflect it.
Exactly. She knows how to spot the heat.
Okay, so here's our mission for this deep dive. We are going to unpack exactly how off-market strategies work. Because honestly, it sounds a little bit mysterious to a lot of people.
It does.
We're going to look right under the hood of the Fishers, Indiana market in early 2026 to understand why it's so wildly competitive. And we are going to reveal how a specific, seemingly impossible wish list actually became a reality.
It's essentially a detective story, but instead of solving a crime, we're solving a pretty severe housing crisis for one specific family.
I love a good detective story. So let's start with the victims, or, well, the buyers.
The Thompsons.
The buyers, yes.
Yeah.
We really need to understand the buyer persona here.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't just a generic, oh, find us a nice house with 3 bedrooms kind of search. This was very specific.
Specific is honestly an understatement here. This is a very classic, very demanding profile for the 2026 market.
Break it down for us.
Well, you have Mark, who is in a high-level tech role. That is crucial context. By 2026, the shift to remote or hybrid work is fully cemented in corporate culture.
Right. It's not just a pandemic thing anymore.
Exactly. It's no longer a temporary patch. It's a permanent lifestyle, which drastically changes the architectural requirements for a home.
Because you can't just work from the kitchen table anymore.
Right. Back in 2019, a home office was often just a desk shoved in the corner of a guest bedroom. In 2026, for a guy like Mark, it needs to be a dedicated, soundproofed, highly professional environment.
Yeah, the source mentioned he specifically had custom built-in bookshelves on his mandatory list.
Yes, he's not playing around. He needs a background for video calls that looks like an executive suite.
And then you have Emily. Together, they have this vision that is incredibly difficult to execute because it kind of contradicts the current building trends.
Very much so.
They did not want the modern farmhouse look,
Yeah.
which, if you've looked at any real estate app recently, is absolutely everywhere.
Shiplap as far as the eye can see.
Exactly. White siding, black trim. But they didn't want that. They wanted a traditional colonial.
Which is fascinating from an inventory perspective. They want the aesthetic of a 1990s or early 2000s home, the red brick, the stately columns, that traditional feel.
Right.
But they want the interior flow and finishes of a 2026 luxury new build.
Let's just run down this exact must-have list because it is intense. I want you to tell me, as we go through these bullet points, if this actually sounds reasonable for a budget of roughly $650,000.
All right, let's hear the list.
Okay. First up, architecture. Like we said, traditional colonial brick exterior, size. They want a minimum of 3,200 square feet with at least 4 bedrooms.
Okay, so a very substantial family home. Now, in the Midwest market, $650K should theoretically get you that square footage. That part is not impossible.
Okay, fair enough. But then we get to the kitchen. This is where Emily gets incredibly specific. She wants dual islands.
2 islands?
2 islands, both quartz, Wolf and Sub-Zero appliances, and a walk-in pantry. She literally called it a chef's kiss kitchen.
Okay, stop right there. That is exactly where the math starts to completely break down.
Why?
To have dual islands, you need a massive, massive kitchen footprint. Most traditional colonials built 20 or 30 years ago simply do not have that footprint.
Because they had formal dining rooms.
Exactly. They were built with formal dining rooms and very separated, compartmentalized kitchens. So to get dual islands in a colonial, you were talking about a home that has been heavily structurally re-engineered.
Like knocking down load-bearing walls.
Yes, major renovation work. And then you mentioned the appliances, Wolf and Sub-Zero.
Yeah, that was on the must-have list.
That is a $30,000 to $50,000 appliance package just for the metal in the room. You are asking for a luxury finish level that usually sits comfortably in the $1 million bracket, not the mid-600s.
And we're not even done yet. The lot. They need half an acre or more. Why? Because the kids, Sophie and Liam, needing a play set, they want a vegetable garden. And of course, Max the dog needs room to roam.
In a high-demand suburb like Fishers, getting a true half-acre lot is becoming increasingly difficult.
Because of the density, right?
Right. As density increases, developers shrink the lot sizes to maximize their profit per acre. You usually get 0.2 or 0.3 acres in the newer builds.
So to get the big yard, you have to go older.
Finding a half acre in a developed, highly desirable neighborhood means you are looking for older subdivisions. Which brings us right back to the problem of the house being old and needing that massive modern renovation.
It's a total catch-22. You can have the big yard with the outdated house, or you can have the brand new house with the tiny yard. And they wanted both.
And they wanted it smart, if I recall.
Oh, absolutely, the tech stack. They wanted full smart home integration, Lutron lighting, security cameras, integrated audio. And then the basement. It needed to be fully finished, and it needed a theater set up for movie nights.
A fully finished basement of that caliber is another $50,000 to $80,000 value add.
Plus sustainability. They wanted solar panels already installed for long-term cost savings.
Gophers.
And finally, location. They don't just want anywhere in Fishers. They specifically want Hamilton proper, Geist, or Brooks Landing. These are top-tier neighborhoods.
Hamilton proper is the absolute gold standard in that area. It's got the golf course, it's gated in sections, it has the mature 50-year-old trees. It is absolutely not a starter home neighborhood.
So putting it all together, they want the top-tier luxury specs, the massive land, the specific older architecture but new interior, the smart tech, the sustainability, and the premier location. And they want to pay roughly $650,000.
If I were looking at this as a purely statistical probability in early 2026, I'd say good luck.
Which is exactly what Emily felt. She thought it just didn't exist.
It's the combination that's the killer here. You can find a half-acre lot in an older, unrenovated house for that price. Or you can find a brand new build with the dual islands and smart tech on a tiny postage stamp lot.
Right.
But getting that established estate feel with the modern luxury upgrades and the tech all at that mid-600 price point, that is the definition of a needle in a haystack.
It really sets the stage for why they were so incredibly frustrated. Imagine physically viewing 25 houses. Every single time you walk up to the door, you're hopeful.
You want it to be the one.
Exactly. You pull up to the curb, the brick looks great, then you walk in, and the kitchen is straight out of 1998 with golden oak cabinets.
Yeah.
Or the next house, the kitchen is amazing, dual islands, but you look out the back window and the yard fits exactly one lawn chair and a grill.
It's deeply demoralizing, and it leads to this profound decision paralysis. You really start to wonder if you need to change your entire life plan. You know, you sit down and say, maybe we don't move to Fishers, maybe we just stay in Chicago.
So before we get to how Karakonde actually solved this for them, we need to understand the arena they're playing in. Let's zoom out to the why. What exactly is happening in the real estate market in early 2026 that makes this search so unbelievably hard?
Context is everything here. To truly understand the Thompson struggle, we have to look at the macroeconomic landscape of late 2025 leading into the spring of 2026. It's a very specific, volatile moment in economic history.
Our sources specifically mentioned a spring 2026 housing market context. What are the big headlines driving that?
The single biggest shifter was the Federal Reserve. Late in 2025, we finally saw a 0.25% rate cut.
Finally. I mean, buyers had been waiting for that for a long, long time.
Right. But we need to explain why a 0.25% cut actually matters.
Because it sounds tiny.
To the average person, 0.25% sounds like a rounding error. It's nothing. But in the mortgage market, it acts as a massive psychological unlock.
It signals that the trend is finally changing direction.
Exactly. It signals to buyers that money is getting cheaper, or at the very least, it's not getting more expensive anymore. It shifts the mindset from a fear of high rates to FOMO, fear of missing out.
So buyers think, if I don't buy right now, and rates drop even more, prices are going to skyrocket and I'll be priced out forever.
Exactly that.
But here is the fascinating twist in the data we have. In December 2025, national home prices actually dropped for the first time in years.
Yes. And this created a very confusing signal for the average consumer.
Wait, so if prices dropped, wouldn't that make it easier for the Thompsons?
Yeah.
If prices are down and rates are down, shouldn't they be swimming in affordable options?
You would naturally think so. But nationally, it created this sweet spot that was actually a trap.
A trap. How so?
You have rates dipping and prices softening just slightly. That combination brings a massive flood of buyers off the sidelines all at once. People who were waiting patiently for a sign suddenly jump back into the pool. So while affordability looks slightly better on a spreadsheet, the physical competition skyrockets.
Ah, so the sweet spot is actually a hot seat.
Exactly. You have drastically more demand. But the supply side, that's where the real problem lies.
The inventory.
The inventory simply didn't recover. We are still dealing with the massive hangover of the lock-in effect.
Remind everyone what the lock-in effect is, just so we're all on the same page.
It's simple, brutal math. If you are a homeowner in Fishers and you bought or refinanced your house in 2020 or 2021, you probably have a mortgage rate of 3%, maybe even lower.
Right.
Even if rates in early 2026 drop to 5.5% or 6%, you are not going to sell your house. You physically cannot afford to trade a 3% loan for a 6% loan. Your monthly payment would literally double for the exact same amount of house.
So everyone is just staying put.
They are firmly locked in. So the supply of existing homes remains artificially strangled. You have a flood of buyers triggered by the rate cut, crashing violently into a wall of homeowners who flat out refuse to sell.
And that collision creates the chaos we're seeing.
Correct. And that's just the national picture. When you zoom in on Indianapolis, and specifically the suburb of Fishers, the story gets even more intense.
The sources explicitly mention a 2026 Indianapolis housing comeback.
Yes, central Indiana is predicted to completely beat the national forecasts. While the coastal markets, places like San Francisco or New York, might be cooling off or stabilizing, the Midwest, and Indy specifically, is just heating up. Inventory is historically low.
Good listings vanish instantly. That's the direct quote from the report.
And that's the reality on the ground. In a low inventory market, anything that is priced correctly and looks even reasonably good is gone in a weekend, sometimes in hours.
But why is Fishers specifically so hot, though? I mean, I know it's a nice area, but what is driving this specific intensity in early 2026?
It's a very potent mix of lifestyle appeal and hard economics. On the lifestyle side, you have the evergreen draws, the award-winning parks, the highly rated Hamilton Southeastern School District.
Right, the stuff that always brings families in.
That's always going to attract families, like the Thompsons. But there's something brand new in the mix for 2026. A very big name.
A massive name. Cadillac.
Cadillac, as in Formula One.
This honestly blew my mind when I read it in the prep materials. Cadillac announced their Formula One headquarters would be in Fishers in April 2025.
This is hugely significant for the region.
I mean, an F1 HQ in Indiana? I know Indy is the racing capital of the world with the Indy 500, but F1 is usually, Monaco, London, Italy. It's very Eurocentric.
It is. So bringing that to Fishers is a complete game changer for the local economy. And we have to look at what that actually means for housing. We aren't just talking about generic jobs. We are talking about very specific, highly specialized jobs.
High-paying jobs.
Extremely high-paying. You are bringing in aerodynamics engineers, global data scientists, international logistics directors, team principals.
Wow.
These are people often relocating from Europe or the American coasts. They are coming from markets where $650,000 buys you a one-bedroom condo if you're incredibly lucky.
So they arrive in Fishers.
And they look at a $700,000 colonial on a half acre and think, what an absolute bargain, I'll take two.
Right.
They have massive purchasing power. And this drastically distorts the upper middle bracket of the local housing market. It creates an entirely new floor for luxury pricing.
That is wild. I bet Mark, being a tech guy himself, loved the connection to that high-tech F1 world, but probably absolutely hated competing with those salaries.
I'm sure it was a double-edged sword for him. It raises the stakes for everyone trying to buy in that zip code. And there's one more local policy piece in Fishers that's highly relevant here, the rental rumble.
Oh, the 10% cap.
Right. Fishers proactively implemented a 10% cap on rentals in certain neighborhoods.
Meaning you can't just have a hedge fund come in and buy up the whole block to rent it out or turn them all into Airbnbs.
Exactly. This preserves long-term neighborhood stability. It means the people buying the houses are likely the people actually living in them.
Which is great for a family.
For a family like the Thompsons, that's a huge plus. They want permanent neighbors, not transient weekend guests. They want a real community for Sophie and Liam to grow up in.
But economically, it also restricts supply.
Right, yeah, absolutely does. It means large-scale investors aren't dumping properties on the market when their portfolios shift. They're holding what they have, or regular families are occupying them for a decade at a time.
So let's quickly recap the battlefield the Thompsons are walking into. You have an already desirable area. You have a massive economic boost from the Cadillac F1 headquarters, bringing in very wealthy out-of-state buyers.
Yes.
You have a stabilizing local rental policy limiting turnover. And you have a national macro environment where buyers are rushing back in because of rate cuts, but current sellers are staying put because of the lock-in effect.
It is, without a doubt, a perfect storm for a profoundly difficult search.
And right into the middle of this storm walks Kara Condé. We know the Thompsons were completely failing with the standard search. They were using Zillow, Redfin, the normal online portals. Why wasn't that working for them?
The fundamental problem with the portals is that they are entirely reactive. They show you what is currently available, or quite often what was available 24 hours ago.
Right.
In a market moving this fast, by the time you see a push notification on your phone, a connected real estate insider probably knew about that property 3 days ago.
So it's lagging data. You're always a step behind.
Always. And it's also a filter problem. The Thompsons saw a lot of what they called near misses.
Yeah, the compromise.
They saw a house with a totally renovated great kitchen, but the lot was way too small for the dog. Or they saw a tech-ready house, but it was that modern farmhouse style, not the stately colonial they wanted.
The algorithms can only do so much.
Right. The algorithm can easily match 4 bedrooms and the word Fishers, but it absolutely cannot match traditional colonial charm with a specific dual island vibe and a secluded backyard.
That requires an actual human eye.
It requires a highly specific strategy called off-market sourcing.
Okay, let's unpack this off-market concept, because this is the core of the success story. Kara Condé mentions leveraging pocket listings.
Yes.
I think a lot of listeners might hear the phrase pocket listing and think it sounds a bit, I don't know, shady or overly exclusive, like a backroom deal. What does that actually mean? Is it secret? Is it even legal?
It is entirely legal, and it's actually very common in luxury real estate markets. A pocket listing is essentially a property where an agent has a signed contract to sell it, or they have a firm verbal that the owner wants to sell, but they have mutually agreed not to syndicate it on the public multiple listing service, the MLS, for a certain period of time.
So it's kept in their pocket.
Exactly. It's in their pocket, visible only to their private network.
But why would a seller agree to do that? Economics 101 says if you want the absolute best price for your asset, you want the most bidders. Don't they want everyone on Zillow to see it?
In a purely normal, rational market, yes. But you always have to remember the human element of real estate. Privacy is a massive factor for luxury sellers.
How so?
Maybe they are high-profile executives. Maybe they are connected to that new F1 project we mentioned, and they don't want their own neighbors walking through their primary bedroom during an open house just to be nosy.
The looky-loos. That makes total sense.
Right. Or, and this is key for the Thompsons specific case, they might just be in the pre-market phase.
Pre-market. What does that mean for the seller?
The pre-market is the make-me-move phase. They are seriously thinking about selling. Maybe they are empty nesters preparing to retire to Florida in a few months.
Okay.
They aren't mentally ready for the absolute circus of a public listing yet. They don't want to hire a staging company. They don't want to take the dog and leave the house every single Sunday for public open houses.
It's exhausting for the seller, too.
It is. But if the exact right buyer came along with a clean, serious offer, they'd sell tomorrow.
So how on earth does Kara Condé actually find these people? Because you can't just Google pre-market houses in Fishers. She describes a daily routine that honestly sounds exhausting.
It's the profound difference between passive and active hunting. Most average agents just set up an automated MLS search, send the portal link to the client, and wait for the client to say they want a tour.
Passive.
Very passive. Kara is actively hunting what we call shadow inventory.
Shadow inventory. That literally sounds like a spy movie.
It sounds dramatic, but it's just data that isn't public yet. She's constantly refreshing internal brokerage networks. She's attending agent previews.
What agent preview?
That's where agents host a private walkthrough to show each other their upcoming listings weeks before the public ever sees photos. It's a closed-loop whisper network.
She also mentions in the source material that she spends time driving the neighborhoods. Quote, driving to check lighting and vibes.
That is the ultimate boots-on-the-ground intel. You cannot see how the evening streetlights hit a front porch on a Zillow listing.
No, you can't.
You can't feel if the cul-de-sac is actually quiet at 5 p.m. or if it suddenly becomes a noisy cut-through for rush hour traffic. She's discreetly contacting potential sellers who fit the profile. She leverages long-term builder relationships. In a low-inventory world, your private network is your inventory.
And that hustle leads directly to the breakthrough moment for the Thompsons. I love this part of the story because it wasn't a fancy algorithm that found the house. It wasn't AI predicting a move. It was a literal tip-off.
A simple human conversation. A colleague of hers just mentioned something in passing. Hey, I know these empty nesters over in Hamilton proper. They're thinking about packing up for Florida next year.
Hamilton proper. That was the absolute gold standard on their dream list.
The top of the list. It's got the mature, gorgeous trees, the privacy, the prestige, and the timing was absolutely critical here. The home had not hit the public market yet. Not a single photo was online.
So this is the unicorn. It is entirely invisible to Mark and Emily on their nightly doom scrolls. If they didn't have Kara working that whisper network, they never, ever would have known this house existed.
Precisely. This highlights the immense value of the human intermediary in complex transactions. If they were relying on tech alone, they would have missed the best house in the city.
So let's get to the walkthrough. I really want to visualize this win for them. Kara arranges an exclusive private preview. No public open house, no fighting 20 other frantic buyers in the driveway, just them in the house.
And first impressions matter immensely. The curb appeal was exactly right. It's a stately, classic brick colonial.
Tick. That's the major architecture box checked right off the bat.
A beautiful, welcoming front porch. And the core stats were right. 3,400 square feet.
Which perfectly meets their 3,200 minimum space requirement.
Exactly.
Now, the true moment of truth, they walk inside, they head straight to the kitchen. Remember, Emily practically demanded dual islands. And you said earlier that requires a massive open footprint that colonials usually don't have.
It's an incredibly tall order. But they walk in, and there they are. 2 massive, beautiful quartz islands.
How is that even possible in an older colonial?
Clearly, a previous owner had invested heavily in structural work. They had brought in engineers, blown out the load-bearing walls, completely modernized the internal flow, but kept the classic colonial shell on the outside.
The ultimate best of both worlds. And the appliances. Were they up to spec?
Professional-grade Wolf range. Double convection ovens, a massive sub-zero fridge seamlessly built into the cabinetry, and a full butler's pantry attached.
Emily's exact reaction in the notes was, quote, better than anything we imagined.
That's the emotional hook of real estate. When reality actually exceeds your wildest imagination after months of disappointment, that's when the checkbook comes out.
Then Mark goes to check his absolute requirements, the workspace.
He needed that executive feel, and the house delivered floor-to-ceiling, custom-milled bookshelves in a dedicated office space. It's not just a spare bedroom, it's a proper library. Mark apparently said, this is made for my work.
And the yard. The lot size was 0.65 acres.
Which is huge for Hamilton proper. That's significantly larger than their half-acre minimum requirement. And crucially, the back of the house opened onto a massive screened porch.
Oh, perfect for Max the dog.
And for the kids, Sophie and Liam, playing soccer in the grass while the parents sit on the porch, it's a complete lifestyle enabler.
And what about the basement? Did you have the theater?
A fully finished, tiered home theater setup, complete with a wet bar for entertaining.
It's honestly like this house was custom built from their checklist.
Even the tech and the eco requirements were already dialed in. High-end Lutron lighting controls, Nest thermostats, Ring security, Sonos audio systems hardwired into the ceilings.
And the solar panels.
The solar panels were already installed on the south-facing roof.
It's incredible. It is the literal unicorn. But okay, there has to be a catch. Surely the price is the catch. Their stated budget was $650,000. This honestly sounds like $1 million house, especially with that kitchen remodel.
And that is exactly where the off-market strategy proves its financial worth. Because it was a private pocket listing, the sellers set a private asking price of $640,000.
Under budget. That is wild.
Just under, but firmly in their safe ballpark.
So they actually found it. But finding it is only half the battle, right? You still have to buy it. Which brings us to Section 5, the negotiation. This is where I feel a lot of people get tripped up. Just because you found the perfect house doesn't mean it's magically yours.
Correct. You still have to execute the deal. And this is where the off-market status is a massive, massive advantage for the buyer. Imagine for a second if this exact house with those photos hit Zillow on a Friday morning.
Oh, it's instantly gone.
By Saturday afternoon, you have 10 overlapping showings. By Sunday night, you have a blind bidding war. The price easily escalates from $640,000 up to $700,000.
People are waiving their right to inspect the property just to look competitive.
Exactly. It becomes an absolute frenzy.
Right. But because it's private.
Because it's private, it's a civilized one-on-one business conversation. The timeline was remarkably fast. They had the private tour on a weekend, put the offer in, and the deal closed in under 30 days.
Now, Kara Conde is listed as a certified negotiation expert. Does that designation actually mean anything in the room? Or is it just a fancy title they hand out at real estate conferences to look good on a business card?
Oh, it means a great deal. It means she deeply understands the leverage points in a contract. It means she knows the vital difference between price and value. Even though the asking price was already good at 640, she actually negotiated it down.
She got it down
Yeah,
in that market. From 640,000 to what?
to 635,000.
Wow. Okay, now a skeptic might say, well, it's only $5,000. On a $600,000 mortgage, what is that?
Right, some might say that. But the real win in her negotiation wasn't just the flat price drop. It was the seller concessions.
Let's explain seller concessions for any first-time buyers listening who might not know the terminology.
Concessions are essentially when the seller legally agrees to pay for certain closing expenses that the buyer typically covers out of pocket. In this specific case, she got the sellers to agree to concessions on the closing costs, and she maintained the right to a highly detailed home inspection.
Why is the closing cost part such a big deal for the Thompsons?
It comes down to immediate cash flow. $5,000 taken off the top price of the house changes your monthly mortgage payment by, I don't know, maybe $30 a month.
That's pretty negligible in the grand scheme.
Completely negligible, but $5,000 in closing cost concessions. That is 5,000 actual liquid dollars that the Thompsons get to keep in their bank account on closing day instead of handing it to the title company.
Ah, I see.
That's immediate cash for buying new furniture, for paying the moving trucks from Chicago, for the first massive grocery run. It's immediate liquidity when you need it most.
And keeping the inspection contingency.
In a standard 2026 bidding war, desperate buyers constantly waive inspections just to win the bid. They agree to buy the house as is.
Which sounds terrifying.
It is incredibly risky. You could be buying a complete money pit with a failing foundation or a cracked sewer line. Here, purely because it was an off-market conversation, the Thompsons got to do a full, exhaustive inspection. They got to protect their investment.
That is a huge, huge difference. It really highlights the difference between a transactional agent and a relationship agent.
Exactly. A purely transactional agent just wants the signature on the line so they can get their commission. They'll say, just get it done, waive the inspection, whatever it takes.
Right.
A relationship agent, someone offering that white glove advisory service, ensures the client is legally protected and financially happy for the long term.
And the emotional payoff for this family is just, it's honestly movie script stuff. Move-in day. A snowy December day in Indiana. The holiday lights are already turned on around the cul-de-sac.
It's picturesque. And Emily's feedback to Kara was, quote, "You didn't just find a house, you found our home."
And Mark chimed in and said working with Kara was literally the best part of the entire relocation process, which anyone who has ever moved a family cross-country knows. Usually the actual move is the absolute worst part of your year.
It's incredibly stressful. To turn the most stressful element into the best element is a massive testament to the off-market process.
So that's the Thompsons' incredible story, a huge, definitive win. But I want to zoom out again. Look at the macro picture. Is this just a lucky one-off? Or is this dynamic happening all over the greater Indy area? Is the ecosystem as a whole really that healthy?
It's definitely not a fluke. It is part of a much broader regional boom. The source material highlights a whole interconnected ecosystem around Fishers and Indianapolis that is, as you said earlier, popping. It's absolutely not just restricted to Fishers.
Let's talk about some of these other satellite areas, because Kara covers a wide footprint. What exactly is happening up in Carmel?
Carmel is the perennial powerhouse of the Indy suburbs. There's a specific mention in the sources of Edward Rose Properties raising the roof there with new developments. Carmel has always been entirely focused on luxury and high-end amenities, but it just keeps aggressively reinventing itself.
The article mentioned, what was it, 360 new reasons to love Carmel?
Yes, which suggests continuous, large-scale civic development and investment.
And then there's Avon on the west side. I feel like Avon kind of flies under the radar sometimes compared to the shiny northern suburbs like Carmel and Fishers.
It definitely does, but it really shouldn't. There's a fascinating piece cited titled, "Why on Earth Would You Move to Avon?" And the ultimate spoiler of the article is value and a massive commercial boom.
This is exactly where the commercial and residential real estate worlds intersects again, isn't it?
Right. It's a classic real estate fundamental. If you see commercial development, new retail centers, large-scale logistics hubs, upgraded medical services, residential demand inevitably follows right behind it.
Because people need to live near the new jobs and stores.
Exactly. Avon is seeing that sustained commercial growth, which makes it a very, very smart play for buyers who are looking for a bit more bang for their buck compared to Hamilton County.
What about Westfield? Westfield has been growing like crazy.
Westfield's a really interesting case study. The sources mention a place called the Pickler.
The Pickler. Let me guess, pickleball.
It's a massive new indoor pickleball facility, yes.
Of course it is. Pickleball is literally taking over the world right now.
It sounds trivial, I know. You hear pickleball and think, okay, it's just a game. But these specific lifestyle amenities drastically drive residential real estate. People actively want to live where they can play and socialize.
That makes sense.
Westfield has aggressively leveraged sports tourism. They built the massive Grand Park Sports Campus years ago, and now they are adding localized things like the Pickler to become a massive draw for active families. It's deliberately creating a recreation economy.
And moving north, what about Noblesville and Whitestown?
Whitestown has the Rex Park development fueling growth, and Noblesville is explicitly described in the literature as a knockout market.
The knockout market.
Yes. These areas are seeing rapid, sustained growth because they offer slightly different price points and community vibes than Fishers or Carmel, but still have that incredibly easy access to the city core and the amenities.
Now, I noticed in her profile that Kara writes a lot about commercial real estate trends, too. Not just houses. She mentions warehouses in Plainfield, the senior living boom, and self-storage.
She does.
Why should a regular home buyer care about that? Like, if I'm just trying to buy a 4-bedroom house for my kids, why do I care about a massive concrete warehouse out in Plainfield?
Because a healthy, appreciating housing market almost always sits directly atop a healthy, expanding commercial infrastructure.
Explain the connection there.
Think about the logistics. If Plainfield is having a massive warehouse boom, that means thousands of new jobs in supply chain and management. All of those workers need homes. That drives residential demand. If there's a localized boom in senior living facility construction, it means the regional demographic is aging in place.
Okay, what does that do?
It potentially frees up the larger, older family homes as seniors downsize, or it creates a localized need for specialized medical and support services.
It really is all deeply connected. You pull one string and the whole web moves.
It is. The mention of self-storage as, quote, the hottest play of 2025 is actually a completely fascinating economic indicator.
Self-storage, really. Storing old couches is the hottest play.
Think about what a surge in self-storage usage actually signifies. It means transition. It fundamentally means people are moving, they are downsizing, they are upsizing, or they are relocating into the area.
Oh, I see.
A sustained boom in self-storage facilities is very often a direct proxy for a dynamic, highly fluid moving population. It proves the local market isn't stagnant.
And that huge Cadillac Formula One HQ announcement fits right into that exact same thesis. It's a commercial development that totally changes the residential game for miles around it.
Exactly. If you're buying a home, you really shouldn't just look at the paint colors and the square footage of the house itself. You should look up at the cranes on the horizon.
What are they building over there?
Exactly. What are they investing in? If it's high-end corporate headquarters, tech hubs, and lifestyle centers, your residential property value is likely very safe and will appreciate. If they are boarding up factories and closing grocery stores, that's a completely different, dangerous story.
So looking at the heat map of Greater Indianapolis in early 2026, it seems like the actual unicorn house might be incredibly hard to find. But the habitat for it is absolutely thriving.
The habitat is exceptionally healthy. Mortgage rates are slightly down, institutional investment is way up, and the quality of life amenities for residents are constantly expanding.
Okay, let's wrap this up with some tangible key takeaways. If I'm a listener right now, and maybe I'm not moving to Fishers, maybe I'm in Austin, Texas, or Raleigh, or Denver, but I'm desperately looking for my own unicorn, what are the big lessons I can learn from the Thompsons' journey?
I think there are 3 main, highly actionable lessons here. Number 1, the perfect home often requires looking in places where the general public isn't looking.
Right, getting off the apps.
The public portals, your Zillows, your Redfins, they simply do not represent the entire available market. If you are truly serious and you have specific needs, you absolutely must have an off-market strategy.
Because if you're only looking at the apps, you're basically just fighting over the leftovers. You're seeing what everyone else has already picked through or what everyone else is currently bidding up.
Exactly. Number 2, specificity is okay. The Thompsons were incredibly stubbornly specific about what they wanted.
They literally had a no-compromise list.
Right. And specificity is perfectly fine if, and this is a massive if, you have the right professional guide.
It's a guide who actually knows the terrain.
Yes. If they had held onto that strict wish list and just browsed online alone every night, they would have completely failed. They would have burned out and given up. They needed a guide who understood the subtle nuance of their requests and had the private network to actually go out and match it.
And the third lesson.
The macro market context always matters. Understanding the big picture, the Fed rates, the lock-in effect, massive economic drivers like that F1 headquarters, that knowledge helps you deeply understand why prices are what they are.
It gives you confidence in the numbers.
It does. It helps you negotiate with absolute confidence because you fundamentally understand the underlying value of the asset rather than just guessing based on his estimate.
And the indie market specifically is looking incredibly vibrant for the rest of 2026.
Very vibrant. It is heavily driven by tech influx, lifestyle amenities, and favorable regional economic shifts.
I want to leave the listener with a final thought here. We live in this incredible age of AI, right? We have predictive algorithms that can basically guess what we want to buy before we even type it into the search bar. We have instant, real-time data on virtually everything.
We're absolutely drowning in digital data.
But the Thompson story proves something deeply interesting. The single most valuable piece of data in this entire real estate transaction, the actual existence of that gorgeous house in Hamilton proper. It wasn't on a server somewhere. It wasn't living in the cloud. It wasn't generated by an advanced AI.
It was in a quiet conversation.
It was entirely human to human. A colleague telling a colleague over coffee. A classic pocket listing.
It really raises a provocative question for the industry. Is the future of true luxury real estate actually going to be less digital and much more personal?
That is the question.
As everything else in our lives becomes automated and scraped by algorithms, maybe the ultimate luxury is a trusted human relationship that gives you exclusive access to what the algorithm simply cannot see.
The hidden gems are hidden for a reason. That is something really fascinating to mull over. If you are sitting there staring at a glowing screen at 3 a.m., waiting for your dream home to pop up, maybe you're looking in a completely wrong place. Maybe you need to stop scrolling and start talking to actual people.
Or find an expert like Cara Conde who is out there talking to the right people for you.
Exactly. Huge thanks to the source material provided by Cara Conde and Circle 8 LLC for this really fascinating look into the 2026 market dynamics. It honestly gives us hope that the unicorns are still out there.
You just have to know exactly where to hunt.
And you have to have a guide who knows the terrain. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Go out there and find your unicorn. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care, everyone.